It has often been said in American political culture, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up that brings down the powerful. So it may be with Governor Andrew Cuomo. The New York Attorney General's report documents numerous instances of the governor's alleged sexual harassment of staffers.
The investigation found that Governor Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed current and former New York State employees by engaging in unwelcome and non-consensual touching and making numerous offensive comments of a suggestive and sexual nature that created a hostile work environment for women.
The governor, in his denial, has made repeated references to the culture in which he was raised.
The New York Times published a front page picture of me touching a woman's face at a wedding and then kissing her on the cheek. That is not front page news. I've been making the same gesture in public all my life. I actually learned it from my mother and from my father. It is meant to convey warmth, nothing more. Indeed, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of photos of me using the exact same gesture. I do it with everyone, black and white, young and old, straight and LGBTQ.
None of that may matter as much as the governor's reputation for bare-knuckles politics and a pattern of payback against political foes. One-time New York gubernatorial candidate Rob Astorino knows this well.
People have known, including yourself, have known about the governor's temperament for many, many years. I want to read a quote to you from the Federalist. It quotes Eliot Spitzer, former Governor Eliot Spitzer, in 2010. He told CNN, and I quote, of Governor Cuomo, quote, "He has brass knuckles and he played hardball. He has a lot of enemies out there. Nobody's been willing to stand up to him." People have known about this for a long time.
Yeah. He's always been like that. You know, he's been coddled. You know, when he was in college, his father was the governor. And so, I mean, there's millions of stories of Cuomo getting into fights and all these other things and, you know, everything being squashed because his dad was the governor. And then he really never had a job in his life in the private sector. And then he became, you know, HUD secretary and then attorney general in New York and governor. So he's literally always lived in the executive mansion or has had, you know, a police detail and chauffeur and big donors. So the reality really isn't on him of what his policies are doing.
Equally damaging may be how many of the governor's progressive loyalists and allies aided him in attempts to fight the burgeoning scandal, in effect to cover it up by smearing accusers. The AG's report alleges that Danny Lever, a former Cuomo staffer, now a Facebook communications manager, leaked confidential files about Cuomo accuser Lindsey Boylan. President Alphonso David of the gay rights interest group the Human Rights Campaign allegedly also helped leak Boylan's personal file. While Robert Kaplan and Tina Chen, the respective co-founder and CEO of Time's Up, an anti-workplace sexual harassment organization, both advised Cuomo on also how to discredit Boylan. It may be the governor's sheer power, coupled with the weight of the Cuomo name in heavily Democratic New York State, has finally been eroded. At least 86 members of the New York State Assembly, more than half the body, are said to favor impeachment proceedings should the governor refuse to resign. And that brings us to the question of, can the governor survive an impeachment trial should it happen? It's a complex question given the dynamics of our culture, one that pits the new standards of the Me Too generation against the older generation's more tacit acceptance of boorish behavior in the workplace. It also pits the mob mentality of today's media against the constitutional rights of due process and cross-examination that Cuomo would be afforded in an impeachment trial, rights that can often change the public perception in unforeseen ways. Doug McKelway for the Washington Examiner.